Good morning, everyone. The Subcommittee on Indian and Insular Affairs will come to order. Without objection, the Chair is authorized to declare recess of the Subcommittee at any time. The Subcommittee is meeting today to hear testimony on 4 bills that are before us. Under Committee Rule 4F, any oral opening statements at hearings are limited to the Chairman and the Ranking Minority Member. I therefore ask unanimous consent that all other members' opening statements be made part of the hearing record if they are submitted in accordance with Committee Rule 3.0. Without objection, so ordered. I ask unanimous consent that the gentleman from California, Mr. Issa, and the gentleman from Hawaii, Mr. Case, be allowed to sit and participate in today's hearing. Without objection, so ordered. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Subcommittee on Indian and Insular Affairs. Even during the shutdown, the work of representing our constituents did not stop, but I am pleased that we can now return to this room to continue advancing bipartisan wins for Indian country. Today, the Subcommittee will consider 4 bills, each addressing a different aspect of tribal sovereignty, economic development, and land stewardship. First, H.R. 4276, sponsored by Representative Case of Hawaii, would amend the Native Act to authorize grants to Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and Native Hawaiian organizations for tourism initiatives. This bill carries a $35 million authorization from fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2029. I would note that as drafted, it does not comply with the House's cut-go requirement, and we will need to address that issue before it can move beyond today's hearing. Second, we will review H.R. 5515, the Indian Trust Asset Reform Amendment Act, which I'm proud to sponsor with my Democratic colleagues, Representatives Randall and Hoyle. This legislation grew directly out of the subcommittee's February oversight hearing on ITARA. We heard clearly from tribal leaders that the original law was not implemented as Congress intended. H.R. 5515 makes the ITARA demonstration project permanent. It expands eligibility, it clarifies the federal trust responsibility, and removes barriers that have prevented tribes from participating. It is a straightforward and meaningful step toward greater tribal self-determination in managing trust assets. The third bill, H.R. 5682, offered by Representative Issa, would take 1,261 acres of BLM land into trust for the Pechanga Band of Indians. The affected parcels are adjacent to existing trust land and encompass areas of deep cultural and religious significance, including portions of Puesca Mountain. The bill would consolidate these sacred sites under unified tribal protection and management. Finally, we will consider H.R. 5696, the STREAMLINE Act, sponsored by Representative LaMalfa. This bill continues the important bipartisan work this committee has done on tribal self-governance. It would allow self-governing tribes with compacted realty programs to conduct their own appraisals using federal standards and require those appraisals to be accepted by the Department of the Interior. This is a practical reform that reduces bottlenecks, accelerates economic and housing projects, and respects the capacity tribes have already demonstrated. This bill stems from the House Natural Resources' important self-governance work, including the groundbreaking bipartisan field hearing that we had earlier this year in Oklahoma City in April. We look forward to refining this legislation so that land transactions are more efficient and tribal sovereignty is strengthened. Each of these bills reflects constructive work by members on both sides of the aisle, and each addresses a real identified need in Indian country. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. We appreciate your expertise, your time, and your leadership. I look forward to a productive and bipartisan conversation on these important proposals. With that, the Chair now recognizes the Ranking Minority Member for any statement.
Thank you, Chairman. It is indeed good to be back in this committee room so that we can do everything we can to assist tribes in your work, because it is really your work that we are here to support, because it is your work that is aimed at protecting sacred sites, that's aimed at developing tribal lands and economic development and implementing tribal sovereignty. It's our job to help you get there. And the bills that we are looking at today do just that. We know that tourism provides Native communities with significant opportunities to share and preserve their cultures, create jobs, and strengthen local economies. And H.R. 4276 would further support the resiliency of Native communities in Hawaii by clarifying the authority of federal agencies to provide grants to tribes, tribal organizations, and Native Hawaiian organizations for recreational travel and tourism activities. This is a bill that came over to us from the Senate with bipartisan support, and I look forward to having it have similar bipartisan support in the House. And with regards to the Chairman's Indian Trust Asset Reform Amendment Act, it would give tribes more authority over how they manage their trust assets. And indeed, we held a hearing in the same committee on ITARA earlier this year. Witnesses shared with us the importance of ITARA, but also the challenges that are faced with its implementation, and sadly, the low participation rate by tribes. So the chairman's bill doesn't just continue ITARA, it takes an important step to improve it so that more tribes can participate and they can utilize it for additional activities like wildfire mitigation work. We also heard, however, at the ITARA hearing that the experts were telling us that we need funding, because we need to recognize that all of this great work we are talking about, it only happens with boots on the ground. And to get boots on the ground, you actually have to pay staff to show up, whether it is at their desk or out in the community. And sadly, we have seen the Trump administration slash budgets for tribes and tribal activity, and I am very pleased at the manner in which Congress has responded by restoring that funding in our proposed appropriations. So I'm looking forward to making sure that even as we pass this bill, that we work together to get the appropriations to support it so that we can have that personnel. The H.R. 5682 would take in approximately 1,261 acres of land into trust in Riverside County, California, and managed by the BLM for the benefit of the Pechanga Band of Indians. This area being taken into trust for the Pechanga Band of Indians allows you to steward your lands within your ancestral territory. We know, because you have shared with us, how deeply connected these lands are to your history, to your story, and they should be in your hands and management. And I look forward to hearing from you about that legislation. And finally, we have H.R. 5696 from Representative LaMalfa. We do need to improve the process of taking land into trust, and improving the appraisal process is key. Listen, before I was in Congress, I hand-delivered a land into trust application for Taos Pueblo to the BIA. It took way too many years for that to move forward. The appraisal process was one of it. It ended up costing a lot of money, a lot of lost opportunity, because prices increased, costs increased while we are waiting for the BIA to do its job. But we also know that this is a complex area and that we need to make sure we get implementation right. I love the intent of this bill, look forward to working with the advocacy organizations, with the organizations who are on the ground, who understand how to get this done, as well as the sponsor, to make sure that we can work on the bill to carry out its intent. And so with that, I look forward to hearing your testimony, and I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ranking Member Ledger-Fernandez. The Chair now recognizes the Ranking Member of the House Committee on Natural Resources, Mr. Huffman, for any statement. Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I have a unanimous consent request.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to enter into the record this article from The Guardian. It is entitled, Trump's anti-climate agenda could result in 1.3 million more deaths globally, according to a new analysis. This is about the rollback of emissions and clean energy standards and the finding that adding billions of tons of carbon pollution to the atmosphere is going to lead to 1.3 million additional temperature-related deaths. This will fall predominantly on low-income communities, tribes, outdoor workers, and other folks who are bearing the brunt of the very real climate crisis.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a good agenda, and it is great to be back before the subcommittee. I am pleased that this range of bills represents the breadth of issues that we cover in this work. And the first one from my friend Mr. Case from Hawaii, H.R. 4276, would amend the Native American Tourism and Improving Visitor Experience Act. Let me just say that it is good to have Representative Case, who's been a champion for Native Hawaiians during his tenure with the committee, joining us here at the subcommittee. In 2016, Congress enacted the Native Act to support tribes, tribal organizations, and Native Hawaiian organizations in developing and implementing tourism in their communities using grants and loans and technical assistance. This committee often hears about the importance of recreation and tourism in sustaining rural economies. The Native Act was designed to support Native communities in job creation and economic development while sharing their cultures, languages, and foods in a way that they see fit. Unfortunately, the original legislation did not clearly authorize the BIA and the Office of Native Hawaiian Relations to issue these grants, and that led to implementation challenges. So this bill would amend the Act to ensure that it can be carried out as Congress intended. I hope my colleagues will recognize the need for this legislation and the importance of tourism in Native communities so that we can work together to advance this important bill and further support Native communities in enhancing infrastructure development, expanding tourism capacity, and supporting innovative projects that enhance visitors' experience. In 2016, we also enacted the Indian Trust Asset Reform Act, or ITARA, to strengthen tribal self-governance by providing greater tribal authority over the management of their trust assets. But as we heard at the oversight hearing, and the ranking member talked about this, tribes have faced barriers in accessing and participating in demonstration projects for trust management under this law. H.R. 5515 would amend ITARA to permanently reauthorize the use of demonstration projects while removing administrative barriers. I look forward to continuing the discussion on ITARA and hearing more from our witnesses today. And then H.R. 5696, directing the Interior Secretary to revise the federal land acquisition regulations for tribal appraisals, from Mr. LaMalfa. This, as the ranking member said, is well-intended legislation, so I look forward to the conversation today. Lastly, we have H.R. 5682, which would take approximately 1,261 acres for the Pechanga Band of Indians in Riverside, California, in trust. And I am looking forward to this discussion. Appreciate the chairman being here and learning more about the land's history and what this transfer entails, what it would mean for the tribe. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.